To clean and exfoliate your surfaces with fresh.
I needed a slug of vodka before I could actually do this video because with this one in the bag, with this one to think about stream of conscious talking, it's really difficult to get the light to work exactly how I want it to. So this video is going to be half in darkness. I'm sorry. See, it's a subject matter that I'm just a little bit experienced on, and it is body image. So, as you might have noticed, not perfect, obviously. Like I should be wearing Noah Antwiler's Science Gangster shirt. So, let's get to it. One of the reasons I was so happy that I reached 30 is that my body type has been roughly the same since about 6 or 7 months after I moved into Minneapolis. I moved into Minneapolis in August of 2004. At the time I moved to Minneapolis, I weighed 196 pounds. That was from a total body weight at one point when I was with my first girlfriend of 173 pounds. And what happened to me was I was so depressed about leaving everything and everyone that I ever loved for an alien place that I felt was not for me, was completely wrong, that I started taking antidepressants. And a quick word about antidepressants. First of all, if you're on them, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know, for starters, that antidepressants make you eat. You gain weight. You become somewhat lethargic, where the only thing you want to do, if you take the wrong antidepressant, and I'll get to that in a second, is eat. You don't want to get up. You don't want to face the world. The world isn't your oyster, and it's definitely not the cost of your desire. So, as a result, between the ages of 21 and 23, I gained a lot of weight. And some days I do miss being skinny, you know? I miss being thin, and I miss the ability to wear whatever the hell I wanted. You see, I stopped taking antidepressants on a regular basis some time ago. And I still take them every once in a while when I need them. But what happens when you take Abilify and Zyprexa and Effexor is you lose your drive. Sure, it's there. It takes your anger away. I was a very angry person, right? And to some extent, a much lesser one, I'm still angry. Still sucks sometimes being me with my oversized head, but what that does to your body image cannot be underestimated. What happens is this. At one point, I was 275 pounds, and I hated every second of being 275 pounds. I'm no longer 275 pounds. In fact, I'm not even close, technically. Somewhere in the 230 range. I don't have the balls to weigh myself, but I assume I'm 230 again and going and dropping because hey, it works. But what this does is it changes your image of yourself, right? You see, it can make you feel like you can't compete with your chiseled muscle heads. The weird part is I aspired to be one when I was younger, and I almost made it. At one point I did make it. I was once a muscle head. If that doesn't sound logical, think about it. It should. So, anyway, as I was saying, what that does is it changes the whole game for you. And even though I'm not a huge part of the gay community, there are some standards, unrealistic as they may be, that you're held to, right? So, when I want to, and when the mood hits me, I can have this sensuality about me that seems to draw me in. You know, I used to be a lot less cynical and a lot more trusting, let's say. So then you have an issue where people are getting the wrong idea about you simply because when you were much younger, you couldn't handle the pressure of going somewhere where you had never been, would never have gone, were at your choice, and being among people that were alien to you, right? So, body image gets destroyed very easily if you allow it to happen. For the past 9 years, I have fluctuated between a weight of 212 pounds and at my lowest, 208 at my lowest and 275 at my highest. And it happened mainly because of the antidepressants. I used to be an athlete. I still am an athlete to some extent. And I need better life. Anyway, I used to be an athlete, and athletes who take care of themselves. This is the key part. Like, some athletes get to the point where they realize they're not going to be professionals. They're not going to have the 3% body fat that Michael Jordan has, or they're not going to be 7'3" and 375 pounds like Shaquille O'Neal, right? That's not going to happen. So, when that dream goes away, and it's gradual, this is gradual, you eventually start taking care of yourself a little bit less all the time. That's kind of what happened to me. I've been on each side of the extreme, including actually having to comfort my girlfriend when, thanks to her, I ended up weighing less than she did. So, I developed a bad habit that came from my move to Minneapolis, in which the terrain was less, this isn't a word, but I can't say it without it sounding bad. Navigatable. I know it's navigable, I know. A terrain that's less navigable than the one I came from, which was the city of Chicago. So, Chicago, right? Let me give you the lowdown on the difference between Chicago and Minneapolis. Besides the fact that Chicago is a much larger city, right? Let me give you the lowdown. In Chicago, there are 4 distinct and separate sides of town. One of them does not begin until 67th Street. That would be the south side. Well, some say it doesn't begin until Garfield, whatever, or 35th. I've already said 67 because that's when you start having the city east of State Street. So, Chicago is such an area that you can walk. You can walk into multiple neighborhoods. You can go into areas that you never knew existed. And it would keep you down. It would keep your weight down because you knew what you could do and what you couldn't do. Like, for example, and I'm really sad that I have to say this, you would know at 11:30 p.m. not to be on North Avenue and Laramie, or North Avenue and Central, North Avenue and Long and North. You would know not to be there at a certain time of night, right? How the mighty have fallen, right? You see, one of the reasons I used to walk everywhere wasn't just because I wanted exercise. It's money. I didn't have any money when I was a kid. This lighting is horrible. Sorry, this lighting is horrible. This isn't as good a video as the last one, so forgive me. I gotta figure out how to do this much later on. I'll get back to that. Anyway, you knew what you could and couldn't do. I'll give you an example. My last year in Chicago, 2004, I was in Chicago from my birth all the way up until August 17th, 2004. In mid-July, I had an occasion to be on the south side of Chicago. Mid-July 2004, right? The far, far south side. We're talking 69th and South Shore. We're talking 5 North Shore night bus. You know, the 5 runs at night, takes you from 95th station up to 69th station and back, and it covers the entire east side because of most of those routes that's over on the east side are done after a certain amount of time, after a certain time. I wasn't quite there this late, but I was on the south side. I cannot remember the reason why I was there. So, let's say that the occasion necessitated a walk from 75th 3rd and Exchange to the 69th Street Red Line station. The whole way. No music, no accompaniment. They did not have the iPod yet. Not that I could afford it. I walked as fast as I could till my legs were throbbing, hurting, pain. All the way to the 69th Red Line station. That is a walk of about 2, 3.5, maybe 4 miles. I covered 4 miles in 27 minutes. I counted. I had a watch then. Cheap ass watch that stopped a week later, but a watch is a watch. So, it's things like that that would keep your weight down. Adrenaline. Just complete pressure just bouncing off of you. And then I got to Minnesota. And this city does not encourage foot traffic downtown. It doesn't. Example. The junction over near MCTC where I go to school, right? Hennepin, Three Stooges. Hennepin, Lindale, expressways, and Chicago boys still call them expressways. For some reason, that's one of the things that has not changed. I've been unable to call it the highway. Because then that's the Audio Slave song. Never mind. Anyway. So, after 21 years and leaving something that was as much a part of me as my eye color, I came here and some things changed. Some things had to change. I didn't want them to. They did. So, as I sit here talking to you right now, I have a situation that I should be wearing a Science Anchor shirt. I have a situation where on Facebook, I belong to some groups that do not honor and do not lie to themselves. Not just the trans attracted group, not just that one. I belong to a couple of groups that honor larger sized people. I'm right on the outskirts of that, but I still count. That's why I took all that pride of this whole bear thing, where I could finally be Papa Bear. And not someone aspiring to be one, or someone pretending to be Papa Bear. So, my whole body image has changed to such a point where it makes you think every time. Some people have these pictures of these men who are impossibly muscled, or these women that are impossibly fit and toned. And the assumption the assumption is that those people were disciplined enough to not take chances, to eat right, be healthy. Ah, if it were only that simple. Sadly, this is not the case. You see, sometimes people aren't gaining weight because they're lazy. They're not gaining weight because they eat too much. They're gaining weight for stuff completely out of their control. Sometimes it's genetics. My father, who I don't talk about very much, but I love dearly, and if anyone knows my father, just let him know I miss him terribly, and I'm sorry so long has passed, but we probably wouldn't have much to talk about anyway. But as I was saying, sometimes genetics can decide for you what's going to happen. As I said, it was a shock for me to find out that my father, a man who, when I was a baby, a little child, was like the biggest man in the world to me. A man who looked like he could break rocks with his hands, was only 5'8" and 230 pounds. My brother, Andre, my brother's 5'8", about 240, 250. I'm 5'11". I'm just under 5'11", and so tiny, so little under 5'11" that I'm considered 5'11". So genetics can also be a catalyst in stiffing you out of looking perfect. And I'm going to go on a rant about that because